So we've been talking about all of the different levels of influence, and we talked about um, learning, and then last week Kim talked about performance. And this is where I really think it starts to build, as far as if your team is growing, you're going to see these things that you're doing. If you're feeling stuck or you're feeling like your team's not growing, these are going to give you some kind of tips and some troubleshooting that maybe you need to look at, not only in yourself but in your downline, to educate them. And so this is kind of like the pivot, the point where we see a lot of teams either stall out or just learn. Kim talked about last week how we kind of flew to Senior Ruby. Those of you that don't know our story, I joined in October 2013, and I was Senior Ruby in 6 months. And then I sat at Senior Ruby for 7 months before promoting to Emerald. And even at that point, I've been Emerald since December of 2014, so a year and 2 months. I should be Sapphire this month, but even in that time, that year and 2 months, I've had to learn a lot about this level of influence, and learning how to be not just a leader, but how to be an effective leader. And this is where I think if you're stuck somewhere, don't be frustrated. I was very frustrated when I was Senior Ruby for so long because I had ranked up so fast. So I thought I was doing things right. And what I was doing was having great influence in attracting people, but I didn't know how to lead. And this kind of goes with what we're going to talk about next week, developing leaders. If you are not developing leaders below you, you're going to get burnt out. And this is where I kind of got stuck and had to reevaluate. And let me tell you, even if you're a seasoned leader and you're doing a lot of these things right, for me, I had to go back and look at, okay, I've been doing this for so long. Where is the hang up? Is it in the basics? Is it the basic mechanics? What is it? And so this is going to be a really good key, I think, for a lot of us tonight. So we have here the level of leading. And this was one of the quotes at the very beginning of the book. And I love this. Being a general calls for talents different than those of a soldier. This is where you start to separate yourself from the group. You're identifying yourself as a leader. You're going to identify some different talents you may have. Maybe you're going to develop some different talents in order to step into that leadership role. This is where your team is going to look to you. When you're in battle, they don't look at other soldiers, they look at the general. So we're going to focus on influencing and leading other people, not just ourselves. Up until now, our focus has kind of been on ourselves and learning and all of that. Now, our focus is going to be outward on our teams. Learning has become a habit to this point. So you're still learning, as we talked about, but it's not something you have to remind yourself to do. You have gained valuable experience in becoming a performer, but now we're going to take on leading other people and training them to learn and become a performer as well. So this is a constant ongoing process that you're going to continue to do. You're going to teach duplication to your team, train them to start learning and then performing and then leading, going up all of these stair steps. I don't know what that noise is. You're going to also have team growth. So like I said, if you're feeling stuck, come back and look at why you're feeling stuck. The leader is going to be present and leading and seen as a captain of his or her team. If you're a leader and you're kind of in the back of your team and you're kind of like letting other people lead, you're not going to grow as much. You need to be the forefront. Your team needs to look to you. They don't need to look all the way up anymore. Yes, Kim and I are some of your emerald uplines, but you should be the person they are looking to first. Somebody's speaker is not muted. Okay, so the art of leading. Remember we talked about the art and science of learning? There's an art and science of leading. Who would have thought? So the difference between leaders and followers is perspective. The difference between leaders and effective leaders is also perspective. You can be a leader, but not an effective leader. We need to make sure we are developing effective leaders, and we ourselves are being effective leaders. We can lead people to nowhere, and that's not what we want. How we see things, our perspective, is crucial and critical and based on our presupposition. I know a lot of you have heard this, team. Together, everyone achieves more. This is so true because if we have this mindset, the key word is together. We're thinking in terms of our teams, not just ourselves. And so you want to look at your team and think about what can they do. Do you have people that have certain strengths in an area? You need to utilize those strengths. You need to look at your individuals on your team, not just as a blanket team. There's individual strengths that you're going to be looking for. So we know the whole mathematical scientific formula, work equals force times distance. Well, that's true in what we do as well, but it's the formula influence equals effort times scope. So we're going to talk a little bit about that because this is all about your influence, not just your influence on your prospects, but with your team. You want to be a person that your team is going to want to follow. So there's a mechanical advantage gained by a leader orchestrating the efforts of a group of people to accomplish a larger task. When this is done properly, it amplifies the power of the individuals beyond the sum of the parts. Basically, when you are the leader and you are working with the strengths of your people on your team to achieve whatever you're wanting to achieve, whether it's to have a lot of your people go silver, whether it is to add X amount of ambassadors, whether it's to grow your customer base, whatever your task is, if you're looking at the group as individuals, it's going to make those individuals do so much more than they thought they could do and so much more than you thought they could do. So this is why we teach duplication. This is what leverage is. A lot of you probably know that whatever Melissa posts on Team Eichenhorst, Kim and I duplicate, which then I see my other team people duplicate on their team pages. People that are being successful are duplicating. They're seeing what works and taking it and copying it. I don't look just to Melissa. I look at people that are growing in this business. I look at Sarah Taylor. I look at Sonia Dudley. I look at Sarah Marble, Jen Hawkins, Celeste Gwynn. All of these people have achieved their ranks not by accident. They're teaching and training, and so I duplicate what they're doing so that our teams can do that. I want you to think about Bill Gates and Microsoft. Those of you that are Mac people, I'm sorry, you can just pretend you like Bill Gates for a moment. When Bill Gates made Microsoft, if you think about what Microsoft Windows is, it's a program that he created, and he copies millions and millions of times on a CD, or he uploads to the internet for you to download it. It doesn't cost a lot for you to purchase it or to download it, and yet it's duplicated copies. He didn't go out and like hand make all of these copies for consumers. He made one copy, tested it, and he worked it out, and then he duplicated it to all of us. That's the same thing we're trying to do with our Plexus business. We're taking what works and we're encouraging you to duplicate it. Not because we want to see us as almighty Plexus people, but because we have found something that works that somebody else has already done as well. So as a leader, you need to think about that. Leadership amplifies the reach or scope of a performer through the joint efforts of other people. This is duplication. The Silver in Seven, I got that idea from Sarah Taylor, who took her ideas from Sarah Robbins' book, Rock Your Network Marketing Business. The 30-day challenge that Melissa does, she got that challenge from Sarah Marble, and she just reworked it a little bit to fit her team. Everything we do is not original. I would love to say that we're just a bunch of Plexus geniuses, but we're not. We take things and we duplicate it. These Zoom chats are duplications off of the book Kim and I are reading and breaking it down. This is what makes Plexus work. The quality of output will be directly related to the quality of the people involved. So if your team is not growing, look at, are things being duplicated? Are your people being involved, or are they kind of just there? The key, though, is to continue to find people of higher caliber that want to work the business. So if you've got 10 people on your team and you're like, I'm going to just work with these 10 people, you can't do that. Even myself, I have personally signed about 60 level ones between me and my husband. I'm not stopping there. I'm continually to find new people that want to join this business, because not everybody you sign is going to want to work the business. And remember, that's okay. Not everybody you sign is going to be ready to work the business right away. And that's okay. You work with the ones that really want it. Those are your runners. And then you continue to find people that want to work it. And you continue to train those that are kind of unsure, because they will want to jump in at one point. So effective leaders overcome their weaknesses by combining forces with others whose strengths compensate for those weaknesses. Oops, I misspelled that, sorry. Therefore, creating a more powerful team. This is why Kim and I always talk about power partners. This is a very easy business to do, but it also can be very overwhelming if you're by yourself, if you're a little island. Kim and I, we talk almost every day. We'd never do contests without consulting the other one, because she has strengths where I don't have strengths, and I have strengths where she doesn't. And so we make a very good pair together. That's, I think, what has helped our businesses grow, is we partner together. And she happens to be my upline, but I also partner with Melanie Allen, who is not on my team. She is under Laura Ferguson, and we're also partners and do a lot of things together, and we complement each other. So this does not have to be somebody who's directly above or below you. They can be somebody from another team. But the key is to find somebody that you're going to become that power partner, where your strengths are going to combine to be a powerful team, to encourage one another, to cheer each other on, and to really help each other troubleshoot. You do need to understand that there will always be areas for improvement or areas where you feel deficient. This happens to everybody. Whether you're Celeste Gwynn, Miss Double Diamond, she has areas that she can improve on, or in areas that she feels deficient in. Whether you're brand new and you feel like, I just can't do this, you can always improve. I love this quote by General Cornwallis. He said this during the Revolutionary War. Do not dwell on what you should be. Use the means you have and make it so. So what that means is you shouldn't think, man, I should do this for my team, or I should start this, or I should be here. Don't think that way. You need to just do it. You have the training, you have the tools, go do it. If you wait for the light to turn green before you set off on a cross-country trip, you'll never leave. I've heard that in regards to like your goals. If you're waiting for the grass, or not the grass, if you're waiting for things to just fall into place, it's never going to happen. Leaders cannot blame their people, their resources, or their circumstances. I myself have fallen into that, where I've blamed the back office And yes, the back office has been somewhat of a deterrent. I can't put my focus on there because then my focus is off of my goal and I'm not getting over it. It's a circumstance, but it was out of my control. The effectiveness of the leader is the limitation upon the organization. So if you have something, a roadblock, if you're focusing on the negative people in your downline, if you're focusing on the fact that you feel like you don't have enough resources or your circumstances are tough, I'm going to show you some tough love right now. Get over it and find the resources. Pour into the people that want it. I used to try to make everybody on my team want this business, and they're not. And you're going to get drained and you're going to get burnt out. The more the leader leads, the better his or her leadership, the higher the caliber of his or her followers that are being attracted. If you're not a good leader right now, that's okay. You work on becoming a good leader. I wasn't a good leader when I started. I had to learn and I had to go through struggles and roadblocks and frustrations, but I didn't stop. You have to keep learning and training and leaning on people above you to help you. Leaders are aware that every action they have has a reaction. At this stage of the game, you have a team. And most of you that are in our camp convention have a team underneath you. There's many people that are watching you and they're reacting to your leadership. So if you're the type of person that you outwardly let circumstances deter you, you maybe have a bad experience with customer service, so now it just kind of comes out all over whenever you're talking to your team about that. Your team is watching you, and you cannot let that happen because that is poison to your downline, and they're going to catch that, and it's going to magnify. It's going to amplify through your team. So everything you do has a reaction. I've had bad experiences with customer service too, but I've had amazing customer service representatives too. And unfortunately, we're dealing with people. So you can't let other people's reactions control you. This is a graphic that Kim actually came up, and I love that I've seen it kind of circling around Facebook because it's so great. Speaking into a microphone, lip service, that's not leadership. This is leadership, and that is a picture of Jesus washing feet and just being a servant to your team. Leadership is about serving your team. Whether you have one person or 3,500 people on your team is going to be looking towards you. They're going to notice, are you walking the walk or talking the talk? If you're challenging your team to go silver, are you going silver, or are you just saying they need to do certain things without you doing them as well? Are you challenging your team to go out of their comfort zone, but secretly you're not? They're going to notice. Leaders must put their own interests aside for the service of others and work towards the vision. I think a lot of us do that really well, but I think this next point is something that I want all of us to like write down and put it somewhere, because I see a lot of us getting defeated and not seeing the victory in it. I love this quote. Great leaders learn to find defeat in every victory and victory in every defeat. What that means is that there's always room for improvement. Even when you hit the top and you're like, yes, I made it, we're here. Don't stop. There's always room for improvement. And if you feel defeated, you didn't make your goal like you thought you would, you followed up with somebody and they turned you down, it's okay. What part went well? What is something that you did great? Focus on that victory. Leadership is not a 9-to-5 operation. It's consistency and continuous pondering. You're always going to grow as a leader. You're never going to arrive. You're going to continue to grow and learn, and there's always going to be room for improvement, and you're always going to look for that next breakthrough, that next, like, aha, here it is. There's a lot of people that message me and they're like, I don't know what I'm doing wrong. I'm posting, I'm following up, but it doesn't seem like anything is coming about of it. And I kind of think about that as you're planting little seeds. I've had many seasons in my Plexus business where it seems like nothing's growing. I'm not adding any customers, I'm not adding any ambassadors, but I'm planting seeds. And so by continuing to go, I'm looking for I'm looking for a breakthrough, and that ends up happening. I end up, getting a breakthrough, and then it's like the floodgates open. So you have to keep that attitude. This attitude of the leader keeps you out of ditch of discouragement and despondency. If you're not encouraging yourself, you need to write down those encouraging things on your wall. So the next few slides are going to talk about the science of leading. And there's really not a lot of the science of leading. I was surprised. It's mostly art. These are kind of like the facts. Leaders are going to set the example, and you're going to model the way. People are not going to follow your technique. They're going to follow you. So I know a lot of people are very scientific, and you're worried about XYZ, dotting the lines and making a beautiful picture. And they really are not following how you're doing it. They're following you. So you need to make sure you're a person of influence.
Okay.
Would you want an entire organization of people like you? Think about that. I remember when somebody asked me that, and I was like, well, I don't know. Like, on the one hand, yes, I would, but on the other hand, I don't know. I want you to seriously think about that. If your answer is yes, you are setting a good example for your team. If you're following up, you're going out there in the trenches, you want to attract people like you. If the answer is no, then we need to change the way you are leading. I had said that at one point I didn't know. This was when I was stuck at Senior Ruby. I was doing things right, but I didn't have those leadership skills to train my people. And so I was attracting people that had the fire in the beginning, but then I couldn't pass anything on to them. And so you want to make sure you're able to do that. Are you equipping your team to duplicate? Because they're going to just keep duplicating what you're doing. So if you're not doing anything, if you're not equipping them, they're not equipping their team. And it's going to grow and magnify to where you're going to get a bunch of people that are just not going to stay on your team. A major job of a leader is to inspire others to perform and achieve results. Those are goals that we ask you guys to make up. I love encouraging my team to achieve those goals because I believe in them. I believe that they can do that. And then the things that get accomplished are the things that get rewarded. Goes back to our goals. Duplicate what you are learning to your team. I'm always learning, and I love sharing it on our team page. A leader doesn't really know how well he or she knows something until he or she tries to teach it. I used to do this with my students when teaching them math. A lot of you may not know, I used to teach geometry and pre-calculus, and I would always tell my students when I would teach them a new concept, I would teach it to them, and then I would come up with another similar example, and I would make them teach me. I would make them walk me through it. And I would write down what they said, right or wrong, because if it was wrong, I want them to learn to catch their mistakes and how to correct it. And we would go about talking about it together. So if you're feeling inadequate with the product, try to train your team on the product. It's going to force you into a spot of leading and learning. If you're not sure about how you get paid or where somebody's paycheck is coming from, try to train your team because it's going to force you to learn. Somebody has really loud music. Sorry. Leadership is a matter of the heart. Whenever we have the opportunity or responsibility to influence the thinking, behavior, or development of others, the first choice we are called to make is whether to see the moment through the eyes of self-interest or for the benefit of those we are leading. If you've never read this book, The Servant Leader, I highly recommend it. It really gives you the perspective of how to be a leader to your team, because it's all about serving others. When you're stepping into leadership, always do a self-check. Are you doing it so you can rank up, so you can grow your business, or are you doing it for your team? And I don't just mean like up in your head. We can all say we're doing it for our team, but are we really? Are we really joyful? If you're not, that's something that I encourage you to maybe pray about doing, because it really does make a difference in your own Plexus business as well as your downlines. Leaders exert influence through actually being there in person. This does not just necessarily mean like physically, because I know we're all over the country, but meeting on our Zoom meetings. My team knows they can pretty much message me any time of the day, and I will get back to them. We'll talk via Facebook Messenger using the voice command. Sometimes we'll call each other on the video phone. I want my team to know that I am here for them. I'm not just here as a kind of far distanced away leader. I want them to know, hey, even if you have a non-Plexus problem, you can come to me and we can talk about it. Are you taking the field with your team? Are you up close and personal with your closest levels? I want you to kind of self-assess your team tonight or tomorrow after we get through with this call. I want you to like write down every one of your level 1 and 2s, and I want you to go through them, and I want you to think about how well you really know each of your people. I want you to be able to like say, oh yes, this person lives here, they like this. This is the type of gift I would get them at their next rank. Do you really know them? What motivates them? What makes them tick? What inspires them? And if you don't know, I want you to reach out to those people and get to know them. They're not just worker bees. These are people that are involved in your life and you're going to be friends with, and it's so, so important to be intertwined. Leaders need to have the right people in the right places, seeing things that need to be done and placing those people in those places. So as your team grows, you're not going to be able to do everything, and so you're going to need to identify those people's strengths. And that's why it's so important to know your team. If you have a team member that maybe is going through hardship at home, you know that you need to be either more sensitive with them, or it's okay that they're not interacting as much on Facebook. You know how to tailor encouragement to them. Leaders know that their people's strengths and help. Oh, that is totally a messed up sentence. Sorry, guys. Leaders know that their people's strength and help his or her team be utilized in those areas. That does not make sense to me. Basically, you know that your people on your team, what their strengths are, and you're going to help them become plugged in. Sometimes you can see a strength that somebody else cannot see, and so maybe encourage them. Hey, you're a really great speaker. I really encourage you to speak at our next opportunity meeting. Or why don't you record your testimonial and post it on there? You have a great story, and people need to hear it. Maybe somebody is really great and outgoing, and so they can go meet other people. Let's go have lunch. Encourage your team in their strengths. Leaders are going to be able to communicate and solve problems when they are small. You're not going to wait for it to become some huge, massive issue. And then next week, we're going to build on this. So tonight we talked about kind of how to be a good leader, but we don't want to just lead people. This is where I was stuck for so long, is just leading people. But you don't want to just lead. You want to influence and you want your people to become leaders. You don't want to just lead a bunch of people. You want to lead leaders. So next week we're going to talk about developing leaders of leaders. And I think next week is so powerful. I love how these build on each other, because if you're stuck here, you can figure out what needs to be fixed, and then next week is going to encourage you on how to break through this to lead your team. So I am so thankful for everybody who joined us tonight, and I hope you guys will join us next Sunday. And Kim will be leading it, so we'll see you guys later.